we needed to access, journal articles, for example, for secondary data, and so. And then when I started, looking at all this, I noticed a lot of information that is really gathering digital dust, in the journals, but also in the libraries. And I noticed that academicians are simply communicating to themselves. They are preaching to the converted. We who want to use these texts to enhance our PhD projects and also academic work. But I also discovered that what the academicians discover or invent or reveal through their studies or their findings, I should say, are actually meant to be consumed by the societies, by the society, by the policymakers, by the different stakeholders, just not simply academicians themselves, but also the society at large. So if we are talking about research for development, research that is supposed to spur socio-economic transformation within our societies, then the people supposed to consume these products may not necessarily be academicians. They may be our ordinary people in the parks, our ordinary people on the streets, in the business world, in the medical field, our patients, everyone. And so I came up with this idea, which is called Research Finds News, and we publish on researchfindsug.com. You may want to use your phones to start scrolling through and see what we are doing. So research finds, meaning that the findings can become news. So we are trying to take findings into the news realm, try and step them down into easy to read stories. So what we do is that we try to simplify the language, the jargon, the scientific jargon that is found in your journal articles and theses, to turn them into stories that any ordinary person can read and understand. And the idea is that we would be able to link research and industry. So we are a non-profit research translation project from Uganda. And our mode of translation is simply stories or news stories or newsification for that matter. We believe we are the first of its kind here in Uganda, maybe not in Africa. I was thinking probably there's nothing like this in Africa, but recently I landed on something similar happening in Tanzania around the same time as mine, but they are doing it in Swahili, and they are mostly doing policy papers and policy briefs and not stories, but probably they will get there. So we mix academic rigor with the journalistic flair. Academic rigor is understandable to all of you, but journalistic flair, it may not be understandable to all of you. That's what we use here in Uganda or in the media industry to try to make stories that are interesting, that can be, they are catchy for everybody to just get attracted and find out what exactly is inside or what we're talking about. Because scientific research is such alien to every people, to ordinary people. So we use lots of jargon and people may not understand what we read except academicians or students like myself. So I want to find a way to ensure that, say, a border rider can understand research about the border industry. That's what I'm trying to do. So academia into a conversation. If the media can meet academia, then we'll have a conversation and we take our research products beyond just the academic confines. And so we don't rely on what people say at political rallies, for example, because that's where I have been. I'm a co-founder of Red Pepper, for example, and our stories are usually obtained from Parliament, where there's a lot of noise, or the police station, or at a campaign rally, or a presidential address, or maybe a street fight, or a demonstration. But now those are our sources. But in this niche that where I have gone, our sources are your research reports, the academic books, published journal articles, policy papers, and we also try as much as possible to sit down researchers and interview them about their work. And also we profile them. If we are a research giant, so that people can know you, so that people can know what exactly you're doing. So that people who cannot access journal articles or journals, for that matter, academic journals, can know about your work in a simplified form. That's what we do. So when you look on the side of the screen, you will see our philosophy and what we stand for. So what motivated us? Indeed, like I have said before, we noticed that researchers are speaking to themselves. They are preaching to the choir or to the converted. Those of us who want to read about our work or our colleagues' work, we are already converted. We just want to enhance knowledge. That is fine. But knowledge which is only academic. Now, at Research Finds, we want knowledge that is going to be consumed by everyone so that they can practice it or practicalize it or put it into practice or create products out of that knowledge. So we discovered that lots of research was gathering digital dust, like I had said, in journals and bookshelves. We noticed that journalists don't know how to interpret research findings. I also didn't know until I became a PhD student. So we have a lot of capacity in the media industry of people who can interpret research, but they don't know how to do it. So there is a mismatch between research and industry. Yet we are trying to build a knowledge economy to be able to improve our societies. But this knowledge economy needs evidential publishing. We need to write stories about the knowledge economy with evidence. And evidence can only come from research findings. For example, if you're talking about typical African farmers who do not know about Google Scholar, for example, how do we communicate to them? So the problem is that there is that poor communication between the researchers and these farmers. For example, if we talk about food security in Africa, for example. And then, of course, finally, the other motivation was that public servants or policy makers have a detest for academicians. They think academicians are theorists. They just write and put their things there, and that's it. So you give them your policy paper, they'll just put it there. They don't want to read it. Or if you give them your deposit, for example, assuming like for me, I'm investigating print media, for example. If now I finish my thesis and then I deposit at Monitor or New Vision or Red Paper, they may not read it. Or at the Ministry of Information, they may not read it because they will think I'm just being theoretical. So this detest for academicians is something that needs to be worked on by projects like this one. When they read simple stories, then they will know, oh, I can now go and look for Professor Ruzaza, for example, or Professor Juliet here, and see what exactly she's doing. Instead of a way of reading her thesis, which is very difficult to understand, the story about her thesis might lead me to a certain section within the thesis, and then I understand what she's trying to do. So if you look on the side again, you see those stories from the Monitor, where universities are being urged to communicate better. Somewhere the Independent published something to do with the president complaining about what PhDs are doing. So this is what motivated us. So how do we do it? We mine the latest journal articles on all sectors. When you see on the side, that top screen, it invites you to send us a story. So when you go on our website, on the menu bar, you click on send us a story. There's a form to fill. It's electronic. It assists you to simplify your research for us so that we go in. And once we've done that, we sieve the stories from your abstracts, from your objectives, from your methodology, from your findings, from your conclusion, and from your recommendations. And then what we do, we grant prominent recognition to you, the authors, by attaching the links. Once we've done the story and refined it, we attach the link to your published journal article, so that then when somebody has read your story, they can also still go ahead and visit your journal. Probably that can help you with so many clicks or citations, or maybe somebody gets in touch with you and suggests probably a product that can be innovated out of your research. So we step it down, we step all the jargon down, academic jargon down, into easy to read news stories. We might even go ahead and interview you if we are able to access you. We can interview you to tell us more about what you did. When you visit this website, you'll see some of you who I have reached out to. For example, Dr. Juliet here. I've reached out to Dr. Nagasha. I've reached out to, I think, Dr. Wengabo and others whose works I have newsfied, and at some point I've interviewed them directly, and they have given me very good feedback. For example, there's a story which I just did 2 days back about a researcher, Dr. Abaho, and at Nkumba University. She did some work around the 2020 Bobi Wine protests and made some recommendations for security on how to queer demonstrations and how to balance human security and state security. It's now the most read article. In 3 days, it's the most read article on the site. And that tells you. But you see, her article came out probably like 6 months ago, and people probably had not known about it. Journal article. So this is what we're talking about. So we go to the story generation bar, and where we say send your research findings or send us your story. Once you've filled in the form, there are simple questions. You click submit, it will come to us, and then our job is to use now the journalistic flair to bring out your findings. And then what we do, we now take your story all over social media, through our social media platforms, so that people can find you, can look for you. If you have a social media handle, for example, a Twitter handle, we will tag you, or we will tag your university, or we will tag your institution, so that then everybody knows what we are doing. So I have been, because I'm doing it alone and a few people, so we can't reach out to every university, every institution, or every researcher, but we know using this form, people can reach out to us and we help them. And then what we do most, which most journalists don't like doing, but for us, we do it because we are dealing with a sensitive area, which is academia, where we are talking about facts and figures. So before we publish this story, we share it with you, the author, if we are able to see you or reach you, so that you also give us your input. Have we done it the way, does the story reflect exactly what you found out or what your journal is about? So that then we are at par, so that we do not tell lies, so that we do not distort facts as you found them out. Now, so how do we cook this food? So like we said, we identify the research topic, or product, and then we try to see how best we fish out the story. For instance, if, like I'll be telling you later, if you were to now to be part of what I'm doing, this is what you need to do. The first step will be for you to determine the potential news value out of your research, and those who might be interested in it. For example, I did a story recently about which Dr. Juliet has been doing with her team in northern Uganda, where they're trying to work out something that will solve, do you call it biomedical, resistance, antibiotic resistance in children. This is what they are doing, and so we're trying to. So the point is that the news value there, becomes what this research is going to do to help people, to help children in Uganda, to help fight antibiotic resistance. And so that kind of topic really interests us. We see the news value out of it. So the next step we go, we read the abstract, we read the instruction, I mean the introduction, we go into the main findings again, and we try to find out their significance, because that's where we will pick the story. We also analyze that method, the methodology that you used. We want to see whether your methods really were valid, and we also pay attention to your sample size, your data collection methods, your statistical analysis that you used in your research, to be able to communicate a story that everybody will know came out of a rigorous process, and why we are using journalistic flair to put it together. This is how we begin to cook the food slowly. And step number 4, we identify the main findings, like I had said before, and we consider how they might be relevant to current events or to broader issues. We look at their implications, especially for policy, and how they might impact the audience. Like, for example, this story which I talked about, which is the most read now on the site, about the demonstrations in 2020, you know, these are relevant issues now in our political landscape. So we also look out for interesting details. Our step number 5, we look out for interesting details. Now, assuming, like I've been showing you a few things on how you can even do it yourself, you realize that when you look at your own studies, your own research findings, you'll be able to pick out what you find to be most interesting amongst your findings, the unique details, especially even of how the research was conducted. That can be unique to us. For example, did you meet resistance? Were you chased? Did the ordinary people chase you around and you could not imagine what is happening to you? And we want to pick that. That's very interesting. It might lead us into a window that opens us to into your research, which might be difficult to understand, but we've used an entry point, which is an interesting part of the research that becomes the entry point to take us into what you've done. And then we look at the insights that have emerged, we look at the details that are newsworthy, that we can put together into a story, and then that story leads us to your research, to your journal article, to your thesis, to your policy paper, for example, or your policy brief, what you'd like to call it. Then step number 6, we also look at the broader context. How is your research fitting into current trends, into current debates, into the issues in your field of study? And then this will help us to frame our product, our story in a way that is going to be relevant and compelling to our audience. Of course, during this work, we encounter certain challenges. Maybe before I even go further, you'll see this story on the right-hand side. This is I think one of us who happens to be a professor at UCU, where she did a study and her team about why Ugandans were ignoring the COVID-19 vaccine. She did some good work. I just landed on it. Actually, I picked it from the NIMRA WhatsApp group, and I asked her, I went into her inbox, I said, can I newsfy this? She said, yeah, please go ahead. Then I asked, give me your findings, whatever they are, just send me a few things. And we did that story for her. And I think it really went very far. But the challenges that we encounter while we are doing this at Research Finds News is that science reporting is boring. People want to hear about Bobi Wine, about MK, about Museveni, about Mabati, because those stories are not boring. But maybe if one of you or one of us did research about this Mabati, then we would get more people reading about what causes people to steal from the poor, for example, and then would make a contribution to policy. But science reporting is boring, and then in the country we have a scarcity of science journalists. I am not a science journalist, but I'm trying to force myself to become one, mainly because of my research work, mainly because of my academic work. And mining journals is tedious. You can imagine. I have to read on top of the articles I have to read for my own work, academic work. Also, I have to read your work. I have to read work that is outside journalism, which is my field. I have to find myself reading about engineering, reading about medicine, reading about agriculture, reading about gender, reading about political science. So it is very tedious and it's a challenge. Of course, this site is not generating any revenue. I told you it's a not-for-profit website. And it's because I've discovered that science communication is a sacrifice. It's going to be a sacrifice. If we want to transform this country, within science communication, it has to be a sacrifice, because now the buzzword is science and technology. The buzzword is STEM. I'm into STEM education field, where I'm teaching children how to play with Legos and build robots. And I'm glad to announce that our children on the program that I run, which is Young Engineers, are now leaving on Sunday for the United States to compete at the world stage in the World Robotics Championships. They are representing Uganda, and we've been doing it. We feel we can build the next generation of scientists or innovators or researchers, or people who can problem solve. So we cannot just develop our country by just politicking and sloganeering. No, we must build a knowledge economy, which is probably powered by science and technology. And so to be able to do that, we communicate science. How do we communicate it? Some of us have to sacrifice. If there's some money to earn or to sponsor some of this work, yes, let it come. We shall welcome it. And then, of course, the other challenge is that many journalists, like myself and my colleagues in the field, are yet to acquire research interpretation skills. They don't know how to interpret research. So probably this should be now a call to journalism departments or schools around the country. I have seen Professor Chivita online, to be able to try and modify how we are teaching our journalists, to take them into this field, so that we help our scientists to communicate their research. And now I've also, of course, discovered that every researcher is a scientist. As long as you're using research methods, you become a scientist. So everybody is a scientist now. And so, but our works are not communicated because our journalism departments or schools probably are not skilling very well our journalists to communicate science. Or even science colleges or departments have not been able to skill our researchers to communicate their own research. So it is going to be also important for universities like Mbarara University, for medical schools like Makerere University or Mulago, whatever you want to call it, to Usitema, Kumi, anywhere, to probably impart some news reporting skills on some of our research, of our students, so that they don't have to wait for Rugyendo, who has invented this, to look for them to communicate. No, they can now begin to do it themselves. Now, funding for science communication, again, is limited. It's a challenge. I need to say that. And then finally, the other challenge is that publications such as this one are in English. So we may not reach our poor people who want to read Runyankore, who want to read research in Uganda, want to read research in Swahili. I've told you of somebody who's already doing it in Tanzania, and he's doing similar work that I'm doing, but he's communicating in Swahili. And I've seen him going to CNN, BBC, and all these places where they have identified him, and they want to probably help him see if he can reach so many other people to communicate their research in Swahili. Now, in Uganda, we might need to have research finds news, communicate in Uganda, communicate in, or maybe use Bukede or use others to be able to reach our poor people, to understand what we are doing within our universities. But what can we begin? What can we do in the short term? And now here I want to invite all of you to work with me on this journey, to turn yourselves, turn all of you into journalists. Charity has to begin at home. Be your own journalist. I will explain the next slide how we can become your own journalist. I am arguing that technology has provided us enough space. Social media, I am investigating, of course, the digital media. And so we have social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. These are spaces that you yourselves can build your presence. You can build your presence on these spaces. So that you now begin to tell us what you're doing. And once we sit there, I can be able to pick it and create a new story out of it. And this is going to be very helpful to all of you, because I'm an entrepreneur. I'm very business minded, so I was coming from an entrepreneurial background, and so when I reached at Makerere University and started reading about these works, your works, and looking at all these journal articles, and I'm realizing this is an opportunity that one can exploit. So, and that's how I began Research Finds News. And so it is possible that your work, once it's communicated through these technology platforms, industry will pick it. Industry will look for you. Industry would want, for example, now I'm sure industry will talk to Dr. Juliet here for what she's doing in what do you call it? Antibiotics resistance. You know, somebody might come and want to work with you because of the story that I've done, and so because of how you've communicated your research. So I'm also arguing that you work with publications such as mine, and I'm sure I am going to inspire other publications to follow this route, so that we change the way we report. I am talking about, I'm also arguing that science-oriented universities like Mbara University, like now I hear Makerere University wants to be research-oriented. Mutesa One Royal University here, same stories, they want to be research-oriented. So if we want to be science-oriented or research-oriented universities, we must be intentional about news writing basics or science journalism courses. All researchers should have these basics. They should not have only just policy writing or policy brief basics. No, my argument is that we should also teach them some simple news writing basics, which I'm going to do in the next slide. You can also share your policy papers with us. We will pick something out of it. This is what I did with, I think, Dr. Nagasha's story of women in Chiruhura, in the cattle corridor, who are trying to create cosmetics out of cow ghee, you know. And I said, I asked her, please send me a policy paper, and I sat down. It took me just about 30 minutes, and I had a good story out of that. It's on the site. You can go there and find it. You can also share your latest publications. I showed you how to do it. When you go on the site, you click on share your story or send us a story. Something is there. Share with me, so that we work together on this journey. I am sure if you support this publication, it will get funding. It will, so that we reach everyone and have all of you actually even participate. For example, that same menu, there is something called conversations. Now, conversations is a menu which is targeting you, the researchers. If, for example, you don't want to send me your work, but you want to say something in an opinion, in an expert preaching, let me say it that way, you send us your article, we publish it on Conversations, and people can find you. So we, in the short term, of course, we can look for grant support and funding for this kind of project, because my dream is that eventually, if this site is able to engulf all of you, then we can move together and even start the first ever science television in the country. So that then we no longer don't have to host politicians to discuss about Mabati. We want host scientists to discuss about their research work, their knowledge, and how it can be translated into policy and practice. So, how are you going to become your own journalists? You people who are listening to me, you comrades who are listening to me, I am here to teach you some journalism, some news reporting. I have my professors online. I've seen them. If I make some mistakes, they should not blame me. but I am trying to pass on what they taught me. If you see on your right-hand side of the screen, there is something called an inverted pyramid. It's what we use in journalism, in reporting. We start with the lead, which must have the most important information. It must answer the who, the what, the where, the when, the why, and the how. So if you go into your own journal article or your PhD thesis that you did, or your postdoc that you are doing, who are you talking to in your work? What are you talking about? Where did you research from, or where did you conduct your study from? When did you do this? Why did you do it? And how? When you answer that, you have already started talking to our inverted pyramid and giving us the most important information. And this should be in 1 or 2 thin paragraphs of 30 words each. Answer this in 2 paragraphs, the first 2 paragraphs of 30 words each. That's all. Then you go to the other paragraphs, which we call the body, the crucial information. This is where the argument is. Your argument. What was your argument? What controversy are you generating from your findings? Your evidence, for example, your background, your quotations, some pictures that you could have landed on, some videos that you want to use, some details, some background information about why you are doing that research can come into that body. Then we have the tail, the extra information, the interesting things, your recommendations would be the tail, your conclusions would be the tail, any other small thing that you want to do. And we recommend that your story should not be more than 500 words if it's so big. 500, if it's too much, 700. If you read your stories that I have done personally, they are between 300 and 700 words. The rest of the work can be found in the link of the journal article that you have provided, that I'll be giving you. So when you go back now on the left-hand side, let's explain it away. Start with a strong headline. For example, one of the headlines that I've done, if you go on the website, I think, let me quote your story, which says, Dr. Juliet here. I did her story just a few days back. And I said, Ugandan scientists do what? Have innovated something. Can you read for me? Because I can't access it here.
Ugandan scientists wish innovating plant remedy for combat antibiotic resistance in children.
Yes. Now, I hope they have heard you. If they're not heard you, let me read it. So the story I did, when I talk about a strong headline, the strong headline that I did for Dr. Judith's work was that Ugandan scientists unleash innovative plant remedy to combat antibiotic resistance in children. Anybody who reads this website, headline, even if they don't go ahead to read whatever I have written, they have understood what exactly these scientists are doing. They would want, the story provokes them to go into what exactly they are doing about children. I might be having a child who is suffering from the same condition. So I want to know what these scientists are doing. So the story is so strong and provocative, yet it is clear, it is concise, it is grabbing the reader's attention. That's what we want to do at Research Finds. We grab the reader's attention to be able to read your boring research product. Because that's what they want to tell us, that researchers do publish boring things. So how do we make sure that people read our boring works? So we want a strong headline that is catchy, that will grab the reader's attention, but yet that must be clear and concise. So you write in clear, concise, and in an objective manner. Use simple language, avoid jargon. We are trying to remove jargon from your work, but the jargon will stay in the link because people will go into the link and find it. But in our story, we'll remove the jargon. We'll simplify the jargon. Then use the inverted pyramid structure, which I have mentioned on the right-hand side. Start with the most important information first, and then gradually move towards the less important details about your work within between 500 to 700 words. If you can do 300 words, that would be fantastic. Answer the 5 W's and an H, which I have said already. Your article should answer the questions of who. Who in your article, for example, it is your study population. It is your audience that you are targeting. What? It is what you are researching about, your topic, your problem. When you conducted this research, when did you conduct it? Where did you conduct it? Of course, probably in northern Uganda, probably in central region, probably at Makerere University. And why did you conduct it? That's your research gap. Why did you conduct it? And then how did you conduct it? That's your methodology. Once you do this in simple language, we have a story and we will tell the world about what you've done. Of course, use quotation marks. If you read again Dr. Juliet's story, there's why I'm quoting her directly, because I called her, I said, explain this for me. What do you mean this? What do you it's more academic. So that's why we want to access the press brief to be able to pick out the story. But the press release is a newsification. So those are some of the methods you use. And that press release, you can even post it on your own social media handle. So the journalists like us can pick it and make sure we communicate. We make sure we bring you many more citations. We make sure we link you to the industry or to people who might be interested in your research. So this slide also explains what I've been saying, what to do before you newsify your research findings. Understand your audience. Identify key messages. Think of storytelling techniques. Storytelling techniques, I think I'll go in detail here. Use anecdotes. Use case studies. Use personal stories to illustrate the impact of your research. Personal stories. If you go back to Dr. Juliet's story, I said antibiotic resistance in children. That is personalization. That is human interest. Anybody who has a child would want to do that story. Because I have hit where it hurts most the person. Bring the person in the story. Bring the consumers of your research in the story. That's important. Those are good storytelling techniques. The human face. Bring a human face in that story. Use vivid language. Bring your findings to life. Bring a human face to your story. Audience, understand your audience. Who are these? Are they policymakers? Are you targeting the media? Are you targeting farmers? Are you targeting the general public? Leverage visuals, for example. Visuals are like charts, like graphs, like pictures. When you check all your stories, you realize, where do I get some of the pictures? I go and look for them to illustrate your story. I go to Google and find out pictures that may illustrate what your research was talking about. So I use these pictures. If you look at this story on your left-hand side, this is a story that I extracted from Dr. Rwengabo's and Dr. Moses Kisa's study. They studied the problem of the Rwenzururu crisis in Western Uganda. The clash between UPDF and the Mumbere's people in 2016 at the palace. If you remember the palace attack. So everybody was like, this man, he wants to overthrow government and what. But these two researchers, Dr. Rwengabo and Dr. Moses Kisa, went down and did an ethnographic research and understood the root causes of that clash. And they concluded that it was about the kingdomization of Uganda, the districtization of Uganda, the unending districtization of Uganda. You turn every village into a district. You bring this village and the other one and form a district. You don't know what is within them, what are the dynamics, what are the sociological dynamics within them, and this is what led to these clashes in the Rwenzururu region. Why? Because the state, in trying to cow down Mumbere, decided to kingdomize some other fiefdoms around the Rwenzururu. And the Rwenzururu people were not happy. And that's how they clashed with the security forces. So, but we brought this story out because we know when you talk about Rwenzururu, everybody wants to know what they talk about. When they talk about Mumbere, that's the human interest, the human face into this story. But their work, which is published in the Cambridge Press, was able to reach far and wide. And I'm sure some of you accessed it. So we leverage visuals. You see the Mumbere picture there. A picture speaks 100 or 1,000 words. And we use photos, try to use videos. Eventually, as we try to improve, when we get more resources, even we want to act out your story. We bring myself, for example, and I read out your story in a video format, and we act it out to be able to help people who can't read, but can see a video and can understand, or people who don't have time to read, but can listen to a video or an audio and understand what your research was talking about. So we create engaging headlines and teasers. I've already shown you that. So why do I think that newsification is the future of research translation? Of course, I'm still a student. I don't want to claim to know what research translation is all about. No. But I have learned that research translation entails writing proposals, disseminating research findings, and that's what I've been told about. And but for me, I have said no. We can take it a notch further and engage media into in a process called newsification, which I've already explained. And why do I think this is the future? Because if you can't communicate your findings to children, to cooks, to maids, to border cyclists, then you haven't understood them yourself. This is my argument. Globally, the language is changing. It is gravitating towards science careers, especially after COVID. So if we're beginning to believe that science, research, the knowledge economy is the future, then we have to newsify it. When you come to Africa, also the political language is changing. There are heavy investments in science and technology careers, in increasing evidence-based policy implementation. For example, recently, I saw in Kiruhura, this week, the president was launching something to do with science and technological skilling. But their products have to be talked about, we have to use media to newsify those products and make sure that they get appreciated by everyone who wants to consume them. When it comes to Uganda, President Museveni is obsessed with scientists, and he's always speaking about science and technology. Of course, we in the humanities are also complaining that he's giving more money to scientists, and not us in the humanities. Somebody needs to tell him that that when you engage in methodology, you're already a scientist. If you engage methodology to establish facts and findings, then you're a scientist. And this is very alive in the humanities as well. So all of us are scientists, so we deserve recognition. But because we're talking about it, that means we are beginning to understand that science is the future, is the holy grail, is the light at the end of a dark tunnel that has engulfed this continent. And therefore, we need newsification to be able to engage policymakers to understand us. I had already said earlier on that public servants, technocrats in these ministries and government departments have a love-hate relationship with researchers, with the academicians, because they think they are theoretical, that they are theorists. It's because they don't understand what they are doing, or it's because they don't understand these findings, or it's because nobody has newsified them. If we begin to newsify them, then the policymakers will now begin to consume our research products. And for me, what I want, the revolution I'm doing right now, is that we no longer want to recognize politicians on the front, on the high table, or giving them front bench recognition. No, we want our professors, our teachers, our PhD holders to be recognized on the front bench because of what they are doing. It's because they don't know what they are doing that they don't recognize them. If they did through newsification, then they would recognize them. They would give them funding. They would partner with them to create products that can be commercialized, that can be patented. And then we all become happy, we employ people, and we transform our economies. So again, I need to argue that newsification is the future because there are so many articles that are hidden in journals and they go unnoticed. It's only academicians and students like us who notice them, but we only use them to earn our PhDs and go back home. This is wrong. Now, of course, the search for knowledge is an unending journey, and for me, I argue that every new knowledge, every new finding, you people who are greeting us in our defenses, what is your PhD? What is your PhD now? Tell us, what exactly have you contributed? So that contribution for me is a news story waiting to be told by a journalist. That to me is the news story waiting to be told by a journalist. So I want to write the media to start knowing about this. That PhD, when during defense, when they are greeting us and they say, Rugyendo, what is your PhD? and so for me, that is the one. That's the story that should be told in non-time, New Vision, in Red Paper, everywhere, in research finds, NBS, anywhere. Now, of course, there is talk everywhere about research-led universities, especially in Africa. For me, I find this is an opportunity to find out and publish what they are doing. I've been trying to quietly using the Twitter handle for Research Finds, which is the Research Finds News UG. Research Finds UG. I've been trying to contact the research directorates in the different universities. I go quietly, but they don't know I'm the one contacting them. I said, please give me your things. They follow back. Sometimes they send, sometimes they don't send. But I want to work with them. I want to work with them because I know they have so many products that are on their shelves. We want to see what is Mark Reef doing. If Uganda, if Museveni, you don't know what Museveni, government of Uganda has given 30 billion to Makerere University to fund specific targeted NP3 oriented research. We want to newsify it. So then we know that Mark Reef is relevant. So then Museveni can now increase the money and give them 60 billion. The same should happen at UCU, should happen at the other universities, Mara University, at the Uganda Matters, and other places. Yes, I'm still arguing that newsification is the future of research translation because you scientists are preaching to the converted. To democratize this preaching to include everybody. We need for human interest in research. We need to redefine our audiences. So if policymakers have a love-hate relationship with academia in Africa, and they call them theorists, we now need to define that audience. How do we do that? When we newsify products, the audience becomes, their mindset changes. Like these policymakers, their mindset changes. And of course, in research, in academia, we emphasize academic rigor. But we need to add journalistic flair so that findings are understood by everyone. We need science journalism everywhere. I know some universities are doing it, even including Makerere, but we need more of this, or we need to turn our own researchers into science journalists, just to be able to communicate their own works. I'm arguing again that there is a need for a nexus between social science and natural science. These days I hear people talking about social medicine, people are talking about social agriculture, people are talking about social engineering. Why? Because humanities and natural sciences are beginning to have a discussion. But the moderator should be the media, should be the journalist. So we also need to look at intellectualism versus scientific literature, what comes first? I argue that you don't have to be an intellectual to read a scientific product. Then, of course, if the future is newsification, we now have potential of social media. Start your own spaces on social media. Optimize your findings. Use LinkedIn. Use Facebook. Don't think social media is just for the local people, the ones in town, wasting time. No, these spaces have potential to create your own media houses. You don't have to wait for such findings to be able to do your works. You don't have to pay a journalist to be able to newsify you. You can newsify yourself on your own platform. So why should we newsify research findings? Again, yeah, we need to advance knowledge. You know that. We need to make sure people, all audiences access our knowledge. We need to create impact. We need to address some pressing issues. For example, if we have a public health issue, you remember there was COVID-19. The person who stood out during COVID-19, during the fight against COVID-19, was one of us, Professor Guang. And why? Because his Covidex came out of a research product. And why did people talk about Covidex? Because the media houses focused on it. That's the reason. So we must research, we must newsify research findings in order to address pressing community or society issues, like, for example, what happened in the Covidex scenario. Yeah, because once we newsify, then we support scientific endeavors. Once we newsify, there is a possibility that science can be funded. Once we newsify, we also kill stereotypes and misconceptions about Africa. For example, by highlighting the contributions of African researchers and institutions, news coverage of research can help to shift the narrative away from stereotypes and misconceptions about Africa and its capabilities. They think we don't research. Of course, we do. But of course, the figures show that much of the research that is done in Africa, 70% of it is done by outsiders or funded by outsiders. And even much of this research is done in South Africa, or in Southern Africa for that matter. So these misconceptions that we from Africa cannot also contribute to the North must be stopped. And why they can't be stopped is because we don't newsify. So we also must newsify in order to increase the credibility of our researchers, to create great attention to their findings. We must newsify because we need to attract funding so that we contribute to a more sustainable scientific research. We also need to newsify to create collaborations. When your product is newsified, there is a potential for collaboration, especially between policymakers, between fellow researchers, and funding agencies. So here, what we do, how do we think, for example, at research findings, for example, we plan to bring in a commercialization element in order to be able to find time and pay people to newsify these products. I told you it's very difficult. But we have a unique selling point. Why? Because we newsify research. It's the first of its kind on this continent. I am very proud that I'm the only one who has thought about this, and other people will be inspired. We also newsify research reports, books, and articles, so it's a good selling point. We focus on science communication on all topics, and we emphasize quality writing and news presentation. When we do this, we think that people can pay for this. People, if you have your research product and you want it newsify, because whenever you go to disseminate it at a seminar, you hire a venue, you pay this, you pay that, you pay that, but you can also pay some little money to ask, maybe 50,000, maybe 10,000 shillings, maybe 100,000, to be able to newsify your product and take it very, very far. But we haven't reached that stage. We are still not for profit because we feel that the work we are doing is noble and can attract your funders to also support it. On the right hand side on the screen, that's an example of a story. I think this story is from Dr. Nagasha, where we are saying that there is a new study which is showing how to turn Uganda's milk into cosmetics. Anybody who loves milk would want to read that story. No, oh my God, how does it happen? Yeah, but that's what we picked from her policy brief. We also now, why we think we have a good commercialization potential is because our target audience. We target academicians. Our audience includes policymakers. Our audience includes the general public with an interest in research. Our audience includes researchers, educators, students, journalists, scientists, and individuals who are interested in staying informed about the latest research findings and the implications for academia, policy, and society at large. This is what we are doing. A unique target audience, which you people can also target, or which funders can target, or which sponsors can target. So this is some of the works we've done. On the right-hand side, you will read and see there is a scientist who developed a model to prevent prenatal death in pregnant mothers. I think this scientist is at Guru University. This researcher is at Guru University. You can see all these stories yourselves. Here I did a story about how neuroscientists have developed antique vaccines, which are going to save Uganda 300 billion shillings in drug imports. Yeah, you see, and then of course our monetization strategy is that we will concentrate on trying to attract some advertising. I'm trying to, for example, I have a section called events. Those of you have events, you can give them to us. We will make no. I employ more journalists to reach out to all the universities. We want to attract sponsorships, want to attract the newsification fees. I've already mentioned it. Donations, if they are there, or subscriptions. Yeah, we intend to do that as well. Outreaches. We want to do social media advertising for all your, which we do mostly. Whenever we publish a story, we advertise the stories on social media. We do tactical web promotion to target different audiences and other skills that we can help with you. If you can't know how to write your press release, we have this service. If you can't know how to write out your press, we can help you. Or maybe turn your research product into a press release, we can help you. This is an interview I did with Dr. Wengabo, because he did some work on how to tackle future pandemics in Uganda some time back, and his work actually predicted what happened during that pandemic. And so I interviewed him because he developed a model, and I interviewed him, and that's where he is. Yeah, we want to build relationships with our advertisers, with potential sponsors, and we also have a way of measuring our success. And this is what we do. These are stories that we've been doing. You can see we did a story out of Kazire. Those of you who know Kazire factory in Mbarara, they did something about some treat peptic ulcers, but of a research product. That reveals where you see Dr. Diana injecting President Museveni. I did the story, I think was they did story 12 years back. They did some study that predicted COVID-19 outbreak, and it was so interesting. So I did it, and it really reached so many miles. I thank you very much, and for reading, and for any apology. I apologize for any mishaps here and there. This is what I could do, and thank you for giving me attention. And now we entertain any questions or advice and some value addition to what I'm doing. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Rugyendo. This has been massive. Personally, I've learned a lot, and I hope it will be very useful for everybody who has listened to you. And we hope going forward, your innovation will help other researchers and universities to publish their findings. Mr. Rugyendo has asked us to give him some comments or questions, so the floor is open. Yeah, Monica, you have the floor.
Yes, good morning, everyone, and I'm really happy to be here. Thank you very much, Dr. Rugyendo, very, very much for your presentation and also for the initiative. I just wanted to draw our attention to an organization called scidev.net. Scidev short for science, SCIDEV.net. That is involved in fairly similar work, except I think their parent is in the UK, but they have chapters in various parts of Africa and so on. And since I also attended the seminar on networking, if Rugyendo and his team have not already networked with them, the contact person in Uganda is called Charles Wendo, and he's in charge of their training and other things. It might be a good idea to link up with them if you haven't already, though I suspect you have. So I just wanted to draw your attention to this. They also run a website, a fairly big website called The Conversation, where they share a newsified research. So it might be a good idea to sort of harness the synergies here. There is space for many innovations. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Who is comment or ask a question?
Hello. Hello.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Please go ahead.
My name is Florence. My name is Florence. Thank you, Rugyendo, for the nice presentation. My question actually relates to the conversation about research. I wanted to find out when Rugyendo writes about research, do people react? Do they comment? Because we believe that we should bring out work, but we should also make it better in another version. So when you newsify your research and then people react, somehow you might find out something either you overlooked, or something that you did wrong, and then you can have a better version or another. You might identify another gap within your research and then advance further. So I wanted to know if he normally gets, when he notifies some of the research that I've seen, does he normally get feedback, or do those people whose research has been newsified, have they gotten feedback that is impressive enough to make them advance more? That's my question.
Yeah, Mr. Rugyendo, there is also Saron in the chat who's asking, how do we let other researchers out there know of this opportunity?
Okay.
Sylvia?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Rugyendo, for this nice presentation. I actually wanted to react about a story he did about my research. I remember sharing the actual publication with my colleagues and family, and they told me there's a lot of science in the paper. But later, when Mr. Rugyendo did the news, it was so easy for them to understand. So, and to me, when I read his newsified research, of course, I understood everything and I didn't see the difference between my paper and his, but yes, other people commented very well. And they said, if I had written like him, maybe they would have understood better. So I still think that he does probably a better work than the rest of us. And maybe the other thing that should be left in the newsified version of the research, maybe the place for comments to accommodate as many comments as possible. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
First answer this. Should I first answer this?
Let's have Dr. Kakura and then you answer.
Okay.
Thank you, Rugyendo, for the wonderful presentation. Though I came in a little bit late, my apologies. I wanted to find out, what challenges have you encountered in newsfying research? And then number two, have you tried to engage universities in trying to newsify research? And what has been, if so, what has been the reception? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Robert. Mr. Jeffries, you could go ahead.
Thank you. Maybe let me start with this last one. Dr. Kakuru. Yes, the challenges, maybe you came in when I had actually mentioned them, but I can repeat here. The biggest challenge actually is because I am not an alpha and omega about these things. So interpreting some of your research is such a tough thing, especially when it comes to the natural sciences, because I don't have enough personnel with me who understand these things. So it's a very big challenge, but it's a work in progress where I intend to motivate many journalists to join me on this journey to be able to lessen the burden that I am carrying, because I almost do it alone, almost. And so, and then going to interpret, you know how to read these journals. There's so many, but you also have your own PhD to do. But something that I'm so passionate about, I feel it has a place in this country and it will work. And I'm glad Professor Chivita has given me a link where I'm like, I build collaborations with the colleagues at sciencedev.net so that we are able to cast the net wider and then have more people to get involved. So that's the biggest challenge, how to interpret, especially some of the works that are very, very difficult. So most of them don't get into this channel. Then, of course, funding. How do you reach out to all these researchers? It is difficult, especially when you are running it on your own. Websites don't earn money, so I don't have funding. And so I believe if I had funding, then I would place people in the different universities whose job would be to do it on a daily basis, or work with the journalism schools to take this up, especially journalists or journalism students that are interested in science reporting or science journalism. So that's very, very important. And so that's a challenge because you need to pay them. And if you don't have money to pay them, so I have to keep doing it on my own. Have I engaged universities? Yes, I have. I have actually, those of you at your universities, you must have seen, if you've noticed your handles, your Twitter handles. My handle follows you. My handle is Research Finds UG. It follows you, and sometimes I have gone into your inboxes and I've seen them follow back. And when I ask, sometimes when I ask, send me some of your products, I must say they have not actually. They have not sent them. Maybe they are yet to trust the publication. I understand them from that angle. They are yet to trust this publication. and slowly they will do. But what I do is I am doing it in a guerrilla way. So when I visit Google Scholar or Shikiwago or anyone, and I land on an interesting journal article and I find it is by a researcher at say UCU, then you find me actually also giving recognition to Uganda Christian University. That's how I tend to do it. And by the time they wake up, they realize that this publication has been actually around. But the one that has been very kind of responsive, this is the one at UCU, the directory. They usually come to my inbox and they chat a bit, but not so much. I'm so impressed by them, but the rest haven't. There's a bit of reaction from my university. Makerere, they are still quiet. Hopefully, something will happen. But if you're talking of, I can see in the chat, Dr. Kapuru, you're talking of recruiting volunteers. That's why I'm here, because all of you are writers, are potential writers. Why was I giving you basic writing skills? It's as simple as that. So share. My job is to sit down in my computer to refine and bring in the journalistic flair. That is all. And so, personnel, of course, you talked about that, and I think I finished that. Silvio was talking about comments, and somebody else also talked about whether I have, I think, Florence. Yes, if you look at the story, you can open it. When you go down, there's space for comments. Some of the stories have attracted comments, others probably haven't, but there's space for people to comment. When we comment, we moderate these comments and even publish them. Some of the stories actually have some published comments, especially I think that one of Wenzuru has some published comments. The one of Nkumba University has some published comments. The one of Dr. Nagasha has some published comments. I think it was, Dr. Jiri is not yet, but I'll check. There's some comments that are beginning to come out. This is still some kind of pilot project. It's still a young website. It's not yet even a year old. So interestingly, it is now catching fire. I am very impressed, in fact, because when I look at the accounts, the Twitter accounts that are following this account, they are very serious accounts actually, and they are all emerging from the funding world, from the universities, from the research agencies, or from the researchers themselves. These are the quality of people that are following our account, our Twitter account. That tells me where the site is going. And once I build these collaborations, I think we'll have many people to come on board and support. How do we let other researchers know about this? Yes. Oh, when I was given this opportunity, I came running to let you know. I had been actually doing it on NIMRA forum, but people had not taken it seriously. Sometimes people want to first see the works so that then they know that actually something is serious. And so this is one of the ways I reach out. I always make noise on social media. I am a panelist on the Friday on the media roundtable, NBS television every Friday. Whenever I'm there, I ask the moderator to speak about my research findings project, but also we believe that the stories, once they are out there, if your story has been newsfied properly, then through referral, more such as come on board. Because now the ones that are coming on board now are people who have been referred to me. Somebody comes to my inbox and said, how can you help me? How can I have my article here? Can you do something? Yes, so and so told me, so and so told me, so and so told me. But once the universities come on board properly, because I want to engage, because I mean, these are the people who originate this research. So once the universities come on board, I believe they will spread the message. If they don't spread the message, the works that we shall do for them will spread the message itself. So it is a work in progress. I don't want to say I'm at the level of New Vision, no, but it's a work in progress, and I'm sure people will get to know about this and engage. And we have made it very easy. When you go to the website, I tried to log on, but I think the internet didn't. I don't know. I wanted to show you on the website. So if I can share the site, then I show you what we are doing. Just log on for me. I want to share the Research Friends website. I want to share for you the site to see how you engage the Research Friends on it. Maybe we hadn't. The site directly going live online. Yeah, just a second. Let me just show you an example of this side and what we are doing. I think it comes on good into now I can share. The screen. Okay.
You put the double S in research.
I am sorry. Okay, so this where we are. Okay, so when you come here, you will see these are the different areas that we so far have talked about. But every area that is researched on falls under this any of these categories, and if it's not here, we'll add it. So this is where the stories are. Maybe take you through briefly. You see this story. This is Dr. Juliet's story. This is the story from Nkumba University, the one who talked about the protests. This is from Mbara University, where they are doing research in herbal plants. But I picked something that would make it catchy. I found that one of their works is that researching into impotence. They're trying to develop some herbal solution to sort of erectile dysfunction in men. So I wanted this. It really caught my attention, and I said, if I put it here, then it will take them to where the whole point is. But let me first go in and I show you how it looks like, how we classify it, and how we talk about these researchers. Maybe I could go, let me use this. Let me use yours, or very own here. Now, this is Juliet's story. And I said, my intro was a team of brilliant scientists from Chambogo University, led by Dr. Juliet Chiesimera, is pioneering a groundbreaking approach to tackle antibiotic resistance in children using the power of plants. Now, if we go down, this is how the story is moving. I talk about Chambogo University, so people know where the research is originating. I also talk about this author herself, what she does and her research interests. And then there's somewhere where I mentioned about where there's the link is. I think Julia didn't give me her link, or I forgot to put it. I think, but I can do one which has a link. Now, if I go to Mbara University for Nagasha, I do for Nagasha. Okay, but now for Mbara University, so this is their parabiotic project that they are doing. And I picked the story from the MPs. In fact, I picked this story from their Twitter handle. And then I went and looked for the work that they do. I even backgrounded it in some other research that was done by some other professor, which is this one here. Some research was done in 2005 in Western Uganda, read by Kamatenes Mugisha Oriem Origa, and published in African Health Sciences Journal in 2005. But why I was interested in that research was what they found out. They did 33 herbal plants, and they identified them, and some of the herbal plants are the ones that Mbara University is now researching about. And some of the herbal plants are here planted at Mbara University. I talk about the study area there, but importantly, I credited where I picked these pictures from Mbara University of Science and Technology, and also in this previous research, I mentioned where it can be found. It is here. If finally, let's do Nagasha's. Where is Nagasha? Okay, let me just go here. Maybe number 2. Some research at Makere recently did a study on how music is a political tool. And he was quoting Bobby Wine's music. There are some researchers recently who did a study at Mulago and found out how much waste is being churned out of Mulago. It is here. Those researchers, I gave them recognition. I think let me search Dr. Nagasha from here. Okay. This is Nagasha's story. Her works came from this, building women's capacity on a Milk Valley addition to increase their incomes. This is her title. And what she's been doing with those women, her recommendations, and the gender issues involved, the methodology. We try to simplify it. I also talked about the cattle corridor, where it is and what is happening. And then who is she? This is who she is. This is her picture. And stay informed. I say visit our website, come to Research Finds UG, and contact us on this page. And I think because it was a policy brief, it didn't have a link. That's why I didn't put a link. But now, interviews, this is where I'll be interviewing all of you in case you know I have not done one. I'll yet to do one. Conversations is where I now attract your own expert views, which you write from your own perspective. So one of them is here, Dr. Apollo. He's also a member of NIMRA, Dr. Apollo Rugyendo, and he was talking about how them as Ugandan scientists are uniting to birth the next generation of engineers and innovators. Very interesting take, and even got a comment. The comment is here. Somebody, Paul Shtaka, says, Dr. Apollo, this is a good initiative by, I think this is the association of their engineers. There are many other. So when you come here, send us a story. When you come send us a story, you'll find a form. And these are the questions. What motivated your study or innovation? Tell me. Number 2, what's your study or innovation objectives? You know the objectives. Which social problem is your innovation or study addressing? I'm talking about a social problem because I'm communicating to the society, because we believe that the society which should consume your research. So that means then the social element is important for your study. Then you can describe from your target audience, beneficiaries or users of your study, your major contribution. Once you've done that, you keep going and filling in from me, and then ultimately your brief findings, list them, and then share a link to your journal paper. You share it here, put your name, your phone number, your email address, and you submit. When you submit, this one comes to our email portal, from which that we get these stories. And then maybe share afterwards. We share here on Twitter, for example. If I can come back to these stories, once I have done a story, for example, let me go back to Juliet here. She also has one comment, by the way, I can see. So we come here and share on Facebook, we share on Twitter, we share it on LinkedIn when we come here, and all the other channels, including emails. Let me see what comment do you have? Somebody commented here. Wow, Juliet and team, we are really taking us great heights in the footsteps of Dr. Wang, Jenna Habos. I see an emerging revolution in health sciences research in Uganda. Somebody commented there on this, I think Dr. Tash. And others, if I go to my email, I'll find them there waiting for me to moderate them. And that will be it. This is where we are. Let me see, since UCU has been the one responding a bit, let me see their stories. CU. think there's one story from UCU. Yes, this is Dr. I think she's a member of our team here. Dr. Professor, yes, Professor Kunda. This is her work, which we did, and even sent it outside on social media. And here, I talked about what she has done. Her papers, people can go and find them. And then we were talking about her event, which was going to, I think, disseminate these findings. And I put a Zoom link. Then I went to her inbox. I want to Mutabarza. I went to her inbox. I said, send me your findings. So that I add on this story. She never responded. Maybe, I don't know why. But this is what we did for her. Okay, she will be able to tell me. I wanted her findings so that we communicate further. Why? Because her work is very important in the COVID-19 fight. Very, very important. And so I felt that I could do an additional story for her. I think that is all for regarding the questions. This story, which is the most important, let me find it. This story from Gumba, it has shocked me, in fact, because it is the most read. It has over how many people views? 186, you can imagine. Because I think it's touching everyone's concern, demonstrations, security, shootings, bullets, everything. And so, but what I did was, again, I asked who she is, and I was able to also attach a link to the story, to her work somewhere. This is here. This is the one here. Yeah, that is all.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Rugyendo. There is a question from Sarah Mbabazi. Do you have topics that you wish to be researched on and newsified?
Oh, yes.
It's on the chat.
Okay, I answer that.
Maybe let's first hear from Dr. Gad and then you combine.
I think so.
Dr. Gad. Dr. Gad, you are muted. Maybe
thank you very much, moderator, for giving me this opportunity to. I am speaking. I hope I'm audible.
Yeah, you are audible.
I am grateful, moderator, for giving me this opportunity to comment on the very highly enlightening presentation by Comrade Rugyendo.
We seem to have lost the guard. Maybe we'll come back as you answer, Sarah.
Maybe answering the first question in the meantime.
Yes.
Yes, this is it's an interesting question because I had not thought it that way, but also I think it's very helpful because I just simply, like you dive into the lake, just throw in a net without knowing what you are supposed to catch. It's only until when I land on something interesting that I take it seriously, then I newsify that. But if it has now to come from the topics that I feel we need to look at now, there are many issues. I think it begins from what are the issues, the problems that are affecting us as a country, where research needs to be done and then published. I think this is where we begin from. For instance, from the humanities side of it, people are not able to explain why PDM is having problems. The price development model, why is it having problems, and what is causing people to steal the money, and why is it having problems of monitoring and evaluation? And there were issues like there was no groundwork that was done. There was no baseline survey that was done before they could think about the model that they are using. It has very serious challenges. Anything around corruption, very serious challenges. Groundbreaking works in the medical field. We have our scientists that are doing a lot of work in the medical field and doing some groundbreaking discoveries or solutions or models that we can work on to solve certain diseases. For example, we have some work on cancer. We have some work going on in cancer, for example, some work going on in reproductive health, some work in the infectious diseases, for example. Then when we come to now to the humanities side, the issues that are affecting our people, corruption, political patronage, there's quite a lot there. Gender issues, agriculture, there's a lot in agriculture, a lot, where people are looking for solutions to pests, solutions to food security. Now, when we go to engineering, for example, we have new technologies that can solve problems. For example, how can we solve our pothole issues, for example? Because these topics have both a technological element as well as a social element, what we call in journalism the social shaping of technology theory. So you have social element within a technological deterministic environment. And this is where the people now come in and are able to. Now, if we talk about even HIV/AIDS, condom use, all this, and it's quite a lot. In other words, I think, which are the issues that people are talking about? Which issues are people talking about and discussing? The ones that concern them, the things that are worrying Omuntu wa bulijjo or the people of Uganda. What are those issues that are worrying them? And then we can research them. Then, of course, I'm trying to get interested in the MACRIF topics because they align to the national development goals as well as the SDGs. So those are also very, very important. In fact, if there are any MACRIF people here who have done their projects, send them to me. There's no problem. If you have done them, send them to me. We will newsfy them. Thank you very much.
I don't know whether I can now be audible.
Yes, you are back. We had lost you. You can proceed.
I'm sorry for the interruption. This is sometimes these things can happen. I want to be very brief because of being aware of what is happening. I would like to really thank Comrade Rugyendo for having come out to add on a brick to the growth of NIMRA. And there are many lessons picked. My proposal is that we should see a way of working closely with him and the organizations and the aspirations he represents to further grow the impact of science, technology, and research in the country. I thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Gadi. I see the one who has been reported from UCU has written on the chat, and she says she will do better. This has been a very wonderful and eye-opening presentation. Thanks a lot. So, Mr. Rugyendo, Dr. Kunda will give you the information you're asking for.
Yes. And not only Dr. Kunda, I want to propose that at least all of you who have attended this session, I know you have some products, some research products. Just visit that site. You go to send us a story. That is all. And if I do, because I see we have about 25 people here, minus myself and maybe one or two. If 20 products came through, those are 20 stories. Oh, we will be good to go. I know you have some work you have done, which you want the world to know, or at least in the media industry to know, and we take you further. We will newsfy you.
I wanted to I wanted to put in a disclaimer that I had wanted to speak before Mr. Rugyendo started praising Mbarara University, but then I was given a chance after he praised Mbarara University. But really, if others can do it, then everyone else can do it. So I think we should embrace Dr. Rugyendo's idea as scientists beyond borders. Thank you.
I hear you have weaver birds behind you. Hopefully you are a farmer there. Do we have any other
Yeah, the weaver
person who
birds,
wants
I
to communicate?
am in the car.
I want to say something small, Mr. Katunji.
Go ahead, Judith.
Home, so I am also trying to.
Can I go?
Yeah, let's listen to Judith.
Yeah, this is the other name that Rugyendo was using in his presentation was Nagasha, and this is the Nagasha. So I also would like Nimra to also work together with Mr. Rugyendo, because recently we had a platform with Swedish different universities from Sweden and also Africa, about 5 of them. And we gave Rugyendo, it was hosted by Shambago University, because it was about translating science into policy and practice. And we had different presenters all over the globe, but surprisingly, I think Rugyendo was ranked highly. So I think if the world outside there can see what he's doing, I think we can work together. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that information.
Yeah, I don't see any other hand up. Let me see what is on the chat. They are thanking Rugyendo. So probably we could go to the next item on the agenda and give a vote of thanks. Let me see. We could have since the number of ladies who have talked, I would wish to have a gentleman give a vote of thanks. Let me see, there are very few men here. I see Patrick Oku. Patrick Oku, are you able to give a vote of thanks? If not, I will pick on Samuel Mugabe. It appears there is a challenge with the two I have picked on. Probably I would ask Dr. Kakuru to give a vote of thanks.
Thank you, moderator. I want to take this opportunity to thank my brother and comrade Rugyendo for taking time to invest in an area that very few have chosen to invest in. Thank you for your time, the time that you take to newsify research. Thank you for taking time to present to us. But like as I had earlier said, I conveyed my apologies. I joined a little bit late. I was trying to fight with a certain study report that, and it skipped my mind, but then later I recalled and I joined. But I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I want to thank everyone that has spared time to attend and listen in. Thank you very much. Going forward, I believe that the future is bright. Let's share our research articles with him so that he can really take it up. And of course, the challenges will always be there, but I believe that with our support, Rugyendo and the team can overcome these challenges. I really want to thank you and wish you a happy Easter. No, sorry, a happy Eid. Thank you very much. Sorry, I'm still in the Easter mood, and but for our brothers and sisters, the Muslims, I wish them a happy Eid. Thank you very much, and Rugyendo, keep it up. Blessings.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Kakuru. We have closing remarks and the vital communication. Probably Juliet, Dr. Juliet could lead us into this.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Kafuji, Dr. Today. I want to use this opportunity to thank our presenter today, who has given us how best we can inspire our research. Myself, I'm very excited. I was seeing him sharing on our
Juliet, are you on? Juliet, you are muted.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, although there is some background echo.
How is it now?
It is now okay.
Are you, how about now?
Now we can hear you properly.
Okay. So let me repeat again. I was talking to myself. I'm saying I want to appreciate you all who have taken time off to participate in today's seminar. Thank you so much. And I also want to take this opportunity to appreciate our facilitator today, Mr. Rugyendo. And I was saying that I met him in a workshop earlier last month, the one that Dr. Nagasha was talking about. And when I told him about facilitation on research translation, he was very happy to come and offer his service. Thank you very much, Mr. Rugyendo, and we cannot take you for granted. And most importantly, I also want to appreciate Mr. Kafuji for the great service. Thank you for being our moderator today, for accepting to give this service. I just want to bring a few important communications to you. Please be a little bit patient. Maybe in 3 minutes I will be done. Allow me to also recognize and appreciate the board of NIMRA, the board of directors for NIMRA. I can see Professor Kunda Bachayo for taking your time to participate in the monthly seminars. Dr. Robert Kakuru, then I can see Dr. Royce, then we're seeing Madame Jacqueline. Thank you for supporting us and for being there. One thing about NIMRA for the new members is that we do all this on a voluntary basis. So we appreciate when you come in to give a service. I want to say next month, we have a very exciting and more exciting seminar, which will take us from 15th, 17th May. Please mark your calendars. We will have this year at NIMRA head office at Mutesa Royal University. This seminar will be facilitated by Dr. Peter Samuels from Birmingham University. Those of you during COVID time, you remember he gave us a workshop for a whole, he took us through a series of learning. And then later last year, I think he took us also through some seminars online, but this time he will be here physically. He's paying his own ticket and everything to come and give us these skills. Interestingly, we'll be sharing about supervisory relationships, stress management, data collection and preparation, qual analysis and quantitative analysis, and how to do statistical testing. And even then, those who have reached already at the point of Viva, how to prepare for Viva and defend your thesis. So it will be a very enriching seminar, and please don't miss out. We'll be sending to you the flyers over that. Spread the word, like the way you get to know, you go to know about NIMRA, tell a friend about it. I don't think in your institutions, those of you who are still on the PhD journey or are about to start, I don't think that you are the only ones. Please tell people about NIMRA and how they can join, and also let them not miss about it. One is about we have many people have joined NIMRA, the new members will be and the orientation for the new members will be on 6th May this year at 10 a.m. It will be online. So for Mr. Vincent Sechtereko will be reaching out to you and he will be sharing the link. So we want to tell you more how you can utilize the opportunities at NIMRA. Lastly, but not is to thank and appreciate the executive members whom I work with. One I was seeing online was Dr. Gad Rusaza, but we also have other committed executive members like Madame Olive Chogabiwe, Hadija Yahaya, and others. Lastly, allow me to apologize for our Muslim colleagues. This landed on their special day, the Eid day, but I also take this opportunity to congratulate them upon ending the month of Ramadan and wish them a happy Eid. We had brought this area thinking that it would be on Saturday. Initially, that's what we were told. And we wanted to create more time to pre-organize for now this seminar that is we are preparing for with Dr. Peter Samuel. So we'll be here physically. Those of you have never known where Mutesa Royal is, not to know. This is where we were given an opportunity and a space. And so we encourage you, come here and we interact, we network. And through this, we'll be able to, all of us, to be able to fulfill our dreams. And lastly, this is a call to all of us. Like I've said, NIMRA, we are doing a service, voluntary service. I want to apologize, first of all, for some of the members who shared their research articles. We were meant to share them online on our website, on our NIMRA website, but we've been having a few issues. So I want to call upon anyone, any persons who can be in a position to help us keep on updating some of these things on our website. Please kindly inbox me. We want to make our website be more active and interactive, but we've been having challenges with the previous persons. So if you feel this is something that you can also contribute, all of us towards NIMRA, all of us, we are just doing a service. Please kindly offer yourself and give this support. I thank you for your time. Thank you for attending. I thank you all, and more so to the founders of NIMRA. Thank you for having this brilliant idea that is causing impact. Yeah, God bless you. Enjoy your holiday. Over to you, our moderator.
Thank you, Dr. Juliet. We have exactly used the 2 hours because we concluded at 11:12. We started at 9:12. I also wish you a happy weekend and a holiday. God bless you.
Bless you too.